Hey friends, welcome to our Midweek Moment. Pastor Nicole here. So glad you clicked on. Well, let me officially welcome you to the season of Lent. We had our first Sunday in Lent this past Sunday, and we kicked off our new sermon series, The Curious Questions of Christ. So for the season of Lent, we are going to be looking at Magre de Vega's book, The Questions Jesus Asked, and each week we're going to look at one of those questions that Jesus asked. He asked a lot, but we're just looking at 6 of them over the next few weeks. So this week we looked at the question that Jesus asked that says, "Who do you say that I am?" And we talked a little bit about what was the setting of that story, what was going on in that story. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about, so when I was preaching that story, when I was preaching on Sunday, as I'm preaching through the sermon, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, I really should have expanded on this point, a point that I should have included this point. And then after the service, somebody asked me about it. So I thought, I need to address that. I really should have put it in my sermon. We'll talk about it in our midweek moment instead. So the question was, what does it mean to take up your cross daily? So in the story, Jesus asks, "Who do you say that I am?" Peter says, "You are the Christ sent from God." And then Jesus goes on to explain what it means to be one of his followers, that you can declare Jesus as Christ. That's the first step. But then there are these things that you have to do, and you have to say no to yourself, deny yourself, take up your cross daily, and follow Jesus. Those are the 3 things. Say no to yourself, take up your cross daily, follow Jesus. So somebody asked me, well, what does it mean to take up your cross? Because, Jesus said this before he was crucified. So what did it mean? What did it mean to the disciples? And what does it mean to us today? So when the disciples heard that, what they would have been thinking at that moment was, they knew what crucifixion was. Crucifixion happened all the time during this time period. The Romans were crucifying people on the main roads to show what happens when you go up against Rome, when you break one of the Roman laws. That was, public execution by crucifixion. And so they knew what that meant. They knew that it was a really awful death. And they knew that part of Roman crucifixion was that you had to carry the crossbeam of your cross from wherever, the sentencing to where you were being crucified. Jesus did that as well, down the line when he was crucified. So they would have known what crucifixion was. I think it probably took on a deeper, fuller meaning for them when they realized, oh, Jesus was crucified. And remember when he told us that we should pick up our cross daily. So I think that it probably became a deeper meaning for them. But what I think it means is that we're supposed to die to ourselves and live in Christ. So it kind of goes right along with that saying no to ourselves, that self-sacrificing piece, that denying ourselves. It's not about what we want for our lives. We have to die to ourselves in order to live fully into Christ. And I think that's what Jesus means when he says, take up your cross daily, that daily we are to die to ourselves and our own selfish desires in order to live fully into who Christ wants us to be, desires us to be, calls us to be. Because if we're focused on ourselves, we can't be focused on loving and serving others. Does that make sense? So if we're going to pick up our cross daily, it means that we're dying to ourselves daily. We're crucifying our own self in order to live in Christ. And that's really what picking up your cross daily means. It's kind of a gruesome metaphor, especially for the disciples who had seen it happen firsthand. Of course, Jesus kind of has the foresight of knowing, that's what's going to happen to him. So I think he used that metaphor because it kind of ties into the death that he died for us, and that he would be showing us firsthand how to pick up our cross, how to die to ourselves so that we can live in Christ, because he didn't metaphorically die to himself. He truly died for us. So as we think about that's how Jesus has called us to live. It's a serious, it's a serious request. This is not like an easy life. You know, being a Christian is not just like, oh, it's happy. I go to church. I see people. It's great. No, Jesus is saying like, this is a real commitment. It's a daily commitment, not something that you can just do on a Sunday or do when you feel like it. You have to pick up your cross daily. Every day you have to work to die to yourself, to say no to yourself and your own selfish desires so that you can follow Christ more fully and more closely. So, you know, it's kind of a great little thing for us to think about as we kick off the Lent season. You know, during the season of Lent, we talked about this in the sermon. A lot of us give up something or take on something to kind of remind us of that daily call to follow Christ, to say no to ourselves and to live into the life Christ has for us. So I'm curious if you are giving up anything for Lent or if you are taking on anything for Lent or both. So share in the comments. I would really like to hear what is going on in your life during this Lenten season. What is it that you are doing to die to yourself so that you can live in Christ? So I hope you will have a great rest of your week. I hope you'll join us this weekend as we continue on in our sermon series. We're going to be taking a look at the question that Jesus asked the disciples, why are you afraid? So I hope to see you this weekend, whether in person or online for worship. And I hope you continue to have a blessed Lent. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.